Idea. I urge parties to support this bill.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, this bill is constitutionally confused, it's fiscally flawed, and it is awfully outdated. It actually says everything about how out of touch the Labour Party is with the modern challenges for New Zealand. It shows the Labour Party is living in the past. Yeah, I accept in the 1930s that the local library was the pivotal access point for people to get information. The reality today is that the ultra-fast broadband and the internet, of which this government is investing $1.5 billion, is actually going to be far more important for access to information this century. The second thing is, it is so nanny state. You see, members opposite fundamentally do not trust locally elected councils. What they want to do is to sit from their parliamentary offices and tell elected councillors what they must make free. And the third thing about this bill is that it is fiscally reckless, like so many things that Labor does. You know, Labor knows so well how to spend other people's money. You see, everything that Labor members pride to do is to come to Parliament and make something free. Well, I've got news for members of the Labour Party. Somebody always pays. Whether it is the ratepayer or the taxpayer, they cannot pretend there is not a cost for somebody. Well, we could take up the Greens. They say, no, there isn't a cost, we just print money, but this evening I'm not going to go down that road. See, the basic point is this. Do members on this side of the House think libraries are important? Of course we do. That's why we spend $70 million of public money on the National Library. $70 million. If you look at vote education, there is over $100 million spent by this government on providing libraries in our schools for children. And it's absolutely proper, Mr. Speaker, that we in this Parliament have a say about how we spend taxpayers' money. But what this bill says is that we're going to overrule local councils and say that they must spend money on public libraries. They must make them free.
Order.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I could recite, even in this Parliament, speech after speech after speech of local members opposite saying that we must trust local democracy. That's right. So I simply challenge the members opposite, and I hear Damien O'Connor poking his heads up, why does he not trust the Grey Council to make the decision? Why does he not trust the Westland Council to make the decision? Why does he not trust the Buller Council to make this decision? You see, members opposite cannot lecture this government about local democracy and then when they come to their particular issue to say, no, 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 those services must be free regardless of what the local council might decide. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say how technologically illiterate this bill is. It again illustrates to this Parliament how much Labor is living in the past and not the future. I'd love the next Labor member to explain this for me. Just down the road from the Nelson Public Library, in fact within 500 metres, I've got 3 internet cafes. They're little businesses, they employ people. Their businesses have been affected by a directive from the previous Labor government that said that there could not be any charge for the public internet service, even for international visitors. And the consequence was a loss of jobs for those businesses. So my challenge for members opposite, how many? I would estimate, Mr Little challenges how many. I reckon there's about 4 or 5 people employed in each of those internet cafes. Now it's interesting, why is it that those internet cafes were started by private enterprise ahead of the public libraries? I tell you why. Because private enterprise is innovative. They're able to move with the times more quickly. And I say to members opposite, what have they got against the provision of internet cafes, hi-fi services, those other things? Even, for instance, Mr Speaker, why is it that this bill would make it illegal for my local library to charge a fee for a DVD? Do we really think it's such an offence that a library service right alongside from Video Easy or the local video store, do we really think Parliament has to pass a law banning a council from putting any charge on a purely entertainment DVD? Have they become such a socialist society that they wish that DVDs are going to be free under the great Labor Party vision that they have? I say not. I say this bill goes too far. I also want to challenge the member's assertion that UNESCO says that libraries have to be free. What a load of hogwash. What a load of hogwash. I challenge the member to tell us all those countries, whether it be the United States, whether it be Europeans, who have this sort of law on their books, who have respect for UNESCO. The government's own advice from officials is that the member is flawed in her assertions in that regard. Mr Speaker, our local public libraries right through New Zealand have a very important service and role to play. They provide a damn good service that members on this side of the House respect. Even listening to the member proposing this bill, she struggled to find examples that there was a problem that would justify this bill. I noticed she remembered my colleague, the decision in Rangatiki, which she then acknowledged a council had democratically elected to change in 2005. So I say to the member opposite, you're going to have to prove a lot better case for the wrong that you're trying to fix for Parliament to override the decision of councils. This is a nanny state bill. This is a bill that's tied to books of the last century rather than the information age of this century. This is a bill that says that members opposite know better how to spend other people's monies than they know about creating wealth. This is a bill that speaks volumes about the lack of vision of the Labor Party and how bereft they are of ideas for taking this country forward.
I call the honourable member Jacinda Ardern, and as a